So, I'm gonna be honest, there are moving trucks outside my apartment. Somebody is coming in here, and that is obviously very exciting for them, but for us, it means that there will be some noises and some trucks and some honks and some other stuff outside. So if you hear that, I apologize. I can't really control the status of my outer surroundings here, and I use a cardioid condenser microphone, so it's a little bit, sensitive. With that in mind, though, we have ourselves a trade to dive into, because it is now official. Chris Kreider has signed off on the trade to the Anaheim Ducks. And according to Elliotte Friedman, this will be Kreider and a mid-round pick to Anaheim for Carey Terrance and a mid-round pick upon official completion. It is the end of an era for the New York Rangers. This was then officially confirmed by Frank Seravalli. The full NHL trade per sources, the Anaheim Ducks are receiving Chris Kreider and Anaheim's 2025 fourth-round pick, and the New York Rangers are receiving prospect Carey Terrance and Toronto's 2025 third-round pick. The Rangers move up 15 spots in the 2025 NHL Draft via this trade. And look, man, we already made the video about this 2 days ago. We spoke about how Kreider getting sent over to Anaheim is really akin to that Jacob Trouba trade we saw from a while ago, too. How the Ducks just seem to be grabbing a bunch of the New York Rangers' extra scraps. And extra scraps indeed, with no salary retained, taking on Kreider and his full $6-point-something million AAV contract, $6.5 million till the end of 2027. The guy's 34 years old, and he's coming off a season where he only had 8 assists. Now, look, to give Kreider his credit, he did have 75 points just a year ago. 39 goals, he had 12 points in 16 games in the playoffs, he was looking really good in 23-24. The Rangers were the President's Trophy winning team in 23-24, and Kreider was a part of that. So, 1 year, is that really all that it takes to change an entire guy's fate at the National Hockey League level? I get it, he's 34, he's old, so there isn't really that same benefit of the doubt that you can say, oh, he's got a bounce-back year in him. Like, do you know that for sure? Probably not. But Kreider, with 30 points this season, his production halved from the season that was last year. Now he's going to be taking his talents over to Anaheim. He'll be playing a hard-nosed net front game alongside of guys like Mason McTavish, Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlsson, and honestly, I'm thinking about it like, if you wanted to have a mentor for Cutter Gauthier, wouldn't Chris Kreider be the absolute pinnacle, perfect example of that? Like, ultimately, if Cutter Gauthier becomes a player like Chris Kreider long-term, is that not, like, perfect? This is a match made in heaven in terms of the molding, in terms of being able to form the player that you want out of the younger guys that you have in your organization. There's a lot of potential here. And ultimately, it's going to boil down to how Chris Kreider is able to bounce back from a season where he only had 8 assists. And look, I don't want to say I'm a full believer in the guy, but he's probably going to get more assists than that. And he still had 20-plus goals this recent year. As long as the Anaheim Ducks have that competitive spirit, which it does seem like they're going to try to fully enforce. They have all the money in the world to go after guys like Mitch Marner and try to make something happen in that respect. There will be a lot of things to look forward to for the Anaheim Ducks this upcoming year, and a trade like this fully signals they are trying to get into that competitive phase quickly. They weren't really waiting around here. They're not going to be patient. They have the opportunity to shell out some big bucks now. They have the opportunity to take advantage of a guy like Kreider, who is not really in the highest fate in New York because of that contract. And look, if they get themselves a 20-goal, 15-assist guy next season because of it, I think they're going to be happy with that. Now, they also had themselves the prospect that they traded away in this move too. Carey Terrance, we had already spoken about him in the prior video. Not really the guy that has the most incredible star power here, heading over to the New York Rangers. Carey Terrance was a center in the OHL who was under a point per game for the Erie Otters, and look, for a guy who's 20 years old, that's not the best production in the world. You would expect more out of a player whom you're maybe trying to project NHL potential in, but Carey Terrance, 6'1", 187, 59th overall pick by the Anaheim Ducks in 2023. We'll see what he's able to do as he continues to progress into the American Hockey League, but he's a two-way center who is able to produce some points in the OHL. We'll see whether or not that does translate into the Hartford Wolfpack organization. Right now, though, because of his age and because of his production, I'm not really too optimistic that Carey Terrance is going to be a significant NHL piece. But of course, weirder things have happened in the past. The Rangers are also moving up 15 spots in the draft with this move. It's kind of interesting because, like, both of these fan bases, just based off of the response from Anaheim fans and New York fans, it seems pretty down the middle. Both teams' fan bases seem kind of upset about how this trade went down. The Rangers are like, okay, we only got Carey Terrance on a pick. We only got Terrance and moved up 15 spots. Meanwhile, the Ducks are like, okay, well, we just got on Chris Kreider at his big contract. I honestly do believe more in the ability for Kreider to bounce back rather than the straight-up just doomer mindset that this guy is totally out of it and he's not going to be able to be an NHL contributor anymore. That's just kind of how I'm seeing the situation here. Like, I don't know, there's an argument to be made both ways to be underwhelmed here. Kreider had a disappointing year. Carey Terrance, the prospect, doesn't have the most amazing production. And look, that's not to say that all you need is production to be an NHL prospect that's worth talking about. But I don't know, the guy was under a point per game as a draft +2 player in the OHL. That's not great. Carey Terrance, please feel free to prove me wrong. Like, if he becomes an NHL player, he becomes a third-line shutdown specialist who is a #1 penalty killer in New York for the next decade eventually, then okay, fantastic. Like, we'll look at the Kreider trade in very high regard years from now, when we say the Anaheim Ducks grabbed themselves a 30-goal scorer, and the Rangers got themselves a really nice young piece that ended up being a part of their core in the long term. That's possible, right? But for now, this is the trade. New York receives Carey Terrance and a third-round pick in exchange for Chris Kreider and a fourth-round pick from the Anaheim Ducks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this trade. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.